Welcome back to Recorder on the Wall, where we've come full circle back to the original book. I'm Pete.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Tim.
We're missing a few people today, but that's okay. Matthias, as we know, is pretty much up for the summer, and Katie is unavailable. I think there was a mention of a Vegas trip, so yeah, good for her. Meanwhile, we're stuck reading this. And I don't want to say that in a bad way, but no.
I do.
This is an interesting tone. I know Jeremy wants to rag on this, so.
I didn't enjoy this.
If it isn't already clear or you didn't hear from our last episode, yeah, we've come all the way back full circle to the original Redwall book, but instead of rereading the original book, we're tackling the graphic novel. Yes, folks, there was a comic book of the original book.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do with the cartoon. It is completely independent.
It is, as the kids say, litty fresh to death.
What?
I don't know what y'all are tripping on. I love this.
What?
Yeah, I'll also kind of agree that this some of the art style can be a bit jarring, but overall it reminded me a lot of like lithographs and also the way of how traditional storyboarding was done, as far as like, in the black and white tones and everything like that. Because I mean, the guy that did illustrate this was Brett Blevins, who did storyboarding for Batman the Animated Series, Static Shock, X-Men. He also did Atlantis, the movie itself. He storyboarded for that. He storyboarded for I had his own one for Tarzan. So yeah, this guy actually has a pretty substantial resume. Again, like I will.
I could do another mouse, but me. Yeah, I'm terrible at that.
But I'll
Becky the Warrior.
I won't go too far right now, but I will admit there are some frames of this that are a bit jarring. But overall, I kind of dig it. So
I'm sticking on the one where Clooney is holding his sword by the actual blade.
One of mine was page 6, where they literally forgot to draw the background in the first panel. And then it moves, so they're standing next to a wall. Then in the next panel, they're not. And then in the next panel, all of a sudden, they're facing each other away from the wall. And then Matthias is running away, and there's no wall there anymore.
Well, I mean, that's perspective, and also the fact the no background thing. That's a very common thing for if you want to isolate two characters that are having a intimate moment, because it's all that matters in that moment is the conversation. So you don't necessarily have to have a background for things that, especially with graphic novels, they're one part expression as far as like, hey, this is being depending on what the subject matter is. Hey, this is expression as far as hey, like if you notice in some panels, Clooney's arm is like reaching past the panel, and like that's a fourth wall break and everything. And same thing with like when Matthias is tripping and one of the acorns is going into the next panel. It's more kind of pure artistic expression for a moment, more than like I don't think the dude forgot to draw the background. Just more so he was like, well, they're having an intimate conversation, so all that matters right now is just them.
And now I'm admitting I really want a Deadpool in this universe, because that would be hilarious.
Dead mouse.
Yeah. But
it's also I don't read comics that often, and the ones I have read I haven't been a big fan of altogether. So yeah, I think that's also part of it. So I'm not used to some of the
artistic direction.
I'd say like tropes or things that are done with that, like artistic tropes.
Yeah.
So it's like seeing things like that is just jarring for me personally, because honestly, the only comics I really have read have been like web comics, which kind of play fast and loose with certain things.
Yeah. My stupid weeb brain keeps trying to read this right to left.
And whereas I own a pretty good collection of classic Marvel, DC, and some third party comic book, traditional American comic books, so this is second nature to me.
Yeah, I own a fair amount of graphic novels myself. I don't actually have a whole lot of comics, but actually, if you ever feel like wanting to understand like the concepts of comics, there's this one guy called Scott McCloud, Making Comics, Understanding Comics. He actually has 2 graphic novels that are basically they help illustrate the basic concepts of how to create.
I'm sorry, I'm drinking sparkling water here, so it's yeah. Continue.
It's good for an audio show.
But basically, he's actually worked in the industry a lot too. He actually did a lot of work for Shazam back in the day, but also his 2 books, Making Comics and Understanding Comics, are done in the style of a graphic novel. But he basically helps to show you why certain things work and why other things don't work, and he helps illustrate certain things like page bleeds and concepts of reading right to left in Japanese Eastern comics and stuff like that. So I would recommend that actually for anyone that's in general wanting to get more into graphic novels, if by some reason like this kind of prompted your interest. But yeah.
And then in my own part, I'm not quite the Rabbit fan I used to be, but I really love Louis Lovehog, aka Linkara's Atop the Fourth Wall video show, where he reviews comics and touches on some of the same topics you're talking about.
Yeah, I've met him a few times. He's really cool. But yeah, I haven't gotten around to watching a show lately. I know that he didn't do a whole lot of graphic novels. He did specifically just comics. But I mean, again, the concepts are still kind of the same. But graphic novels usually can be a bit more artistic as far as the direction because, like most times, some graphic novels are not done by a separate writer or a separate artist. They're usually done by just one artist that's telling their own specific tales. So, similarly to the graphic novel Mouse with Spielberg.
Or you get artist writer duo teams who are the only one doing it, like Alan Moore with the occasional person, or one of my favorites is Surrogates, which I really wish I had in front of me right now. And no, it has nothing to do with that terrible Bruce Willis movie. So
what?
I don't even know what movie you're talking about. So
yeah, it was that forgettable. But the graphic novel itself,
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Exceedingly good. So
yeah, but I won't go too far down a tangent. But like, but yeah, so similarly, also like Persepolis, that was done by an artist writer, and then the guy that did why am I Blankets? That's actually a really good graphic novel dealing with living in the Midwest and also dealing with religious ideology and questioning their personal faith and who they want to be when they grow up, and it's a really good book. But anyway, I'll stop now because I didn't want to go too far down on this. But yeah,
one thing I want to get out of the way.
How anthropomorphic are they?
Yeah, how anthropomorphic are they? We've addressed this when we covered Cartoon Season 1, the same story, and we tend to do this in most of the books we cover, but we have to be you will hear us talk about the artwork and style choices of the writers and artists here. Now, while the original book is deliberately coy on how anthropomorphic the characters tend to be, and the cartoon deliberately chose to make it anthropomorphic, the graphic novel here definitely takes a different current. Some of the characters do walk on 2 legs, wear clothes, and function in that way, and then there are other characters who do not. If anything, this is a lot closer to the original book than the cartoon ever was in that respect. But as I'm sure Jeremy will love to tell us, there are some missing elements or characters who are cut back considerably.
Yeah, this is super truncated. Like, whereas it felt like the animated series jumped ahead way too quickly, and though it did try to at least cover some of the big moments, this one is just kind of jumping around half the time, where it's like, oh, Silent Sam's there. Oh, he's gone. Oh, this character's there. Oh, they're gone. Oh, the whole Vole family plot is gone, which, whatever. I mean...
Oh, boo-hoo.
Oh, yeah, I'm really going to miss
nothing,
them.
and nothing of value was lost. Like, I don't know. It is so frenetic at points, and there were multiple moments I'm like, oh, I guess we're here now. And some of the, I don't know. It just felt like it jumped around a lot and then referenced things that happened in the book, but they skipped over instead.
So for this cover to cover, this graphic novel is only 144 pages, and I'm including the cover in that 144. We are only covering the first 74 story pages. Although I will talk briefly about the cover in just a moment. Yeah, we're going to split this up in 2 episodes, mostly because anytime we cover a book, there's a reason we follow Jake's original breakup of the story. Simply because if we were to talk about a single book in a single episode, you all, and I mean our audience, would be listening to us talk for about 4 to 5 hours.
Or in
And
some
that,
cases, probably 6. If we look at
and
Martin the Warrior and the
unfortunately,
length of those episodes.
unfortunately, if you do any kind of research or you're thinking about starting your own podcast, there is a very delicate balance in audio length that you have to do. It's not just for sake of convenience that we split up the books into component 3 parts. It's not just for audience balance, but if you talk too long about a subject, people don't finish your episodes, and if you talk too short and don't go into the depth you need, people stop listening to your episodes. So there's a reason we do the things the way we do.
Well, it's also, if we talked for like 5 hours straight, our throats would be raw by the end of the show.
There's that too. And then I've seen podcasts that go into that length. God knows how they do it. But do I listen to them? No. Most of the podcasts I listen to, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've got several subscriptions that I keep up with, and I go around the internet and I listen to a lot of other ones, mostly, for lack of a better term, is market research. Hey, it's a simple rule of imitation is the greatest form of flattery. If there's something that works on a show that you can adapt to your own, and by all means you give whatever necessary credit you need to, use it. That whole anthropomorphic Are They bumper that I did the original and Salty Rat did the sequel is kind of based on Turtle Soup Show when they do their news segment, and they literally play the news theme from the original Ninja Turtles cartoon. Yeah, but they're a story for another day. Let's actually get to this. So the cover itself and the resource we pulled from this, which, yeah, folks, go buy it with support the official release. We already said that last time. This cover I actually genuinely like. It's evocative of the original book cover. And yeah, you kind of get a buildup of what Clooney doesn't really give you a lot of detail who Clooney is, but I'll say he looks impressive.
Yeah,
made me think of gargoyles.
Yeah, I kind of got that vibe too. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. It definitely is it could draw the eye of like, okay, what the heck is that thing behind the cool mouse with the sword and a shield? Like, what is going to happen in this?
And admittedly, this thing came out really a lot later than a lot of people think. This came out in 2007. Most of the series had already been written and released by that point, and even Brian Jakes himself had, when he was asked, and I'm pulling from the Redwall wiki when I say this, in Redwall.org's Ask Brian, Volume 4, he was asked if they would ever consider doing a Redwall comic book or graphic novel. 5 years later, whoops, this came out.
Yeah, because he stated, didn't he state that he didn't want to do it or something, or just so I actually am very curious what because I was trying for the life of me to find more sources and stuff, like an interview or something as to like, so I mean, what changed his mind that he would be okay like letting them adapt it? I mean, I don't know if it was like a contract thing with the publisher saying, well, I mean, your sales are down, Brian, so we need to put out a graphic novel or something. I don't know, but I'm genuinely curious because it would seem like it would be something that he would be okay doing. I don't know if it had something to do with the fact that the series was originally written for the blind, and he just wasn't crazy on doing a graphic novel purely because of that. I mean, this is me just being purely speculative. I have no idea.
It's a good point to consider. I genuinely don't know myself.
I just wanted KD here so that we could do an entire like audio description of every single panel. I just wanted to hear Jeremy's actual description, the panel by panel, the entire time.
Just essentially do an audiobook of this
all day.
Yeah, we'd be here for like 2 days.
So in the upper left corner of panel 1.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
There's a
Sorry.
tree.
The other thing to note here is that while the cover may be in glorious color, including a genuinely creepy red eye from Clooney, the entire comic book is in black and white. And from all I can tell, the artist, let's see, Brett Blevins, you said?
Yes.
This is not digital art. This has, at best I can tell, this has the hallmarks of someone who did this in studio form. which
Yeah.
is impressive.
Sorry, forgive me. I think it's Brett Belvins, not Blevins. I can't. Sorry,
It's
either way.
Blevins on the front of the cover. It says Blevins.
Is it Blevins? Okay, so that's just me.
And
Sorry.
it looks to be studio art, but there may have been some digital manipulation. But this is in black and white. It has the hallmarks of someone who did this either in charcoal or pencils. And yeah, it looks... I will say that the art, with some exception, is genuinely good. It can be a little jarring in places, as we're going to talk about.
Mm.
But yeah, if you went into this expecting like a Marvel superheroes color comic, no, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, I was saying before we started, I don't know, actually, my memory is terrible. I have no idea if it was recorded, but it kind of reminds me of lithographs, just the way that it's, with all the shading and everything like that. And it's really, I really like that. I really appreciate that. It looks interesting. I think primarily the reason that it was done in black and white, and this is just me being speculative, is that because Brett Blevins did a lot, I don't know if I said this either when recording either, but Brett Blevins worked as a storyboard artist on, a lot of Disney material, did Batman, the animated series, Static Shock. Yeah, did I say it when we were recording, or?
Yes.
Okay, wow. Okay, I'm sorry. My memory is just all over the place right now. But anyway, I think maybe that might have been a reason as why he wanted to stick to black and white, just because of the storyboarding aspect of it. Also, I mean, it might be that the publisher didn't want to pay more money for color. So
the only downside to black and white, if those of you who might think of making your own comic someday, is that you have to be more dynamic, ironically enough, with limited color than you do with full color. You have to have greater contrast when it comes to black and white anything. So I'm not saying he doesn't do that, because clearly he does. So the story begins as we'd expect, literally outside the abbey, and then we see a couple of mice doing things, and it goes right to Matthias carrying a basket full of acorns, like the story would begin. So, and we see. He trips, the abbot says, hey, oh yeah, and it's a whole introduction, like basically for people who've never read the story before, like the original Lava got into. And there's Martin in the tapestry, and he has the shield. Huh.
And we also come to kind of my first complaint about this thing is 99% of the dialogue is literally just copied and pasted out of the book.
It is. I don't have a huge issue with that, honestly.
I do. I think that's really lazy. I don't know if that's what they were required to do. I'm not a fan of it. I wish they would have just done, like, the cartoon kind of, its quality and many things aside, there were lines from the book in there, but I feel like some of it was their own original dialogue. I kind of wish, because this is like an interpretation of it, don't just copy and paste the thing. Try and put your own spin on it, unless that was like a mandate from the publisher saying you have to use the original dialogue.
Well, it could be a mandate from Brian. We'll never know.
Yeah. If this was something out of their control, that's fine. But I am not a fan of it.
When it comes to adaptations of different media, when it comes to like hey, this was a book and then we're turning it into a graphic novel, that is something that I guess is kind of hard to be playful with. Where like how much do you change from the dialogue that was actually in the book if it's a graphic novel adaptation? Because like there are graphic novel adaptations of things like well, why am I blanking? Great Gatsby. It's like how much of the dialogue do you change in that? Similarly, like very classic works that have been turned into graphic novels. So I guess how much do you? Sorry, go ahead.
I would say even conventional media, modern movies occasionally get turned into comic books. I can clearly remember growing up and coming across a copy of Batman Forever in comic book form long before I ever saw the movie. I never saw it in theaters. I saw it when it came to VHS. But there was definite changes.
Yeah. So the guy that actually adapted this or worked to adapt this, the writer aspect of it, Stuart Moore, he did a lot of like adaptations for comic movies and comic storylines into prose books. He actually worked a lot on the Civil War Marvel arc, where basically he was tasked to turn the graphic novels and the comics into a prose book, where basically it's just a book describing of everything that's happening in the comic. So I don't know if again, with as you were saying, I am blanking on your name, and I apologize.
It's your boy, Drew.
Jeremy. Yeah, sorry.
No
So
worries.
Jeremy, as you were
I'm
saying,
bad.
with, like,
I'm horrible with names too. Don't worry about it, man.
I'm more of a face guy. But it was again like the situation where, like how much can you really adapt from straight up from the book or not? Because I mean, it's an interesting choice. So
Yeah, I think part of the problem I have with it, it's like because it's copied from the book and because so much of the story is chopped out to fit the pages in this, it just makes me look at this and go, why am I reading this when I could just go read the book, which is better
right. I guess I
for
don't
me
know.
personally.
I think I want to know what the intention of creating this graphic novel was. If it was to draw in more younger readers in the new millennium era, or something else entirely. But
Well, it's funny you mention that because when I first discovered this even existed, it was right after college, and it was before I could find like my first growing up job. I was working retail, and I went to the library a lot, whether get movies or books. And I'm like, browsed through the graphic novel section. I'm like, oh, I know what this is, huh? So that's a thing. And I rented it, I borrowed it, and be curious if I could go back in time 12 years ago and say, hey, what'd you think of it then? I will say, because I want to keep moving the story here.
Sorry.
Sarmina shows up surprisingly as a flashback, as the abbot explaining who Martin is, and there's a bit of continuity disconnect because it shows Martin basically taking on her entire army by himself in full armor with his sword and shield, which he never had in Mossflower. In winter, when he defeated Sarmina in summer, and holy hell, the whole anthropomorphic are they? Sarmina is, in retrospective size, the size of a real cat to a real mouse.
Yep.
And it shows her dead corpse in the snow instead of, drowning.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, when he tells the story, he doesn't mention, oh, yeah, Martin just scared her into the water, so. And it's a legend that's many, 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 many years old, so I'm pretty sure that. Also, it wasn't winter when he fought her.
No.
So I'm sure details have gotten mixed up over time, and this is just the legend that has come through at this point.
Or are we just going to chalk this up to Goff playing with history for fun?
Yeah, it's like all stories in general kind of hit that, where embellishments happen and, facts get mixed up. And I mean, obviously the out of universe explanation is this book was written before Mossflower.
Right.
But in universe, I'd like to think it's this legend of Martin and his sword, which everyone sees the sword as like this magical artifact, and they have to keep being repeatedly told, no, it's just a piece of metal.
A very good piece of metal, but piece of metal nonetheless.
Yeah,
I do want to point out here, Mortimer says that, Martin took a vow to never harm a living creature unless it was an enemy that sought us harm by violence. Yeah, I'm sure the random vermin gangs who weren't even named in Legend of Luke would totally agree with that.
I do have to mention the panel right next to that, middle left on page 5, where Matthias is reflected off in the abbot's glasses, is dope as all heck.
It's a nice little bit of artistic license. Yeah, I'll agree with you. And we get Mortimer's usual, hey, the Day of the Warrior is done, so you're just gonna be a healer mouse, because I say so.
The world is boring. There's totally nothing evil coming our way. Oh dear God, what's that thing in the bottom corner of page 6?
Yeah. Oh, and go collect the church mouse family.
It's looking at me.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that red eye, Clooney, because let's go into the. Yeah. So yeah, there's the horse, and I really don't want to spend any more time that we've already covered on that awkward subject. Other than, the artist obviously had to depict this. So there was no small amount of debate we've had twice before about this one time we see a horse in the entire franchise and how big it is respectively to the rats. And rats are kind of big here. They are very big. I mean, probably a little. Clooney is kind of like dead center on the first major panel he's in, and yes, we're outright in the book. He's told that he's bigger than most rats, but still, I'd say he's like the size of a small house cat.
Out of all the I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the art in this. I do like the fact that Clooney is this hulking beast of a character.
Oh God,
it's
yeah.
way improved. This is more in line with how I pictured him in like when I would read about him in the book, like this big, burly, kind of fat, like kind of portly a little bit, but bigger than life, as opposed to the lanky doofus in the cartoon.
Yeah, Clooney fully juices. That's probably
Clooney lifts.
Yeah.
Is Sayla his dealer then?
I mean, maybe if you look at the panel in on page 8, he lifts up a guy with his tail.
I noticed. Yeah.
He's macho Clooney.
Also, Clooney really needs to see the Vermin HR sponsored dentist, because good God.
Holy crap.
Well, speaking of Vermin HR, we get our first death of Skullface being horribly trampled and then crushed to death by the cart. And we see his dead corpse lying there, all mangled.
Yeah, where the book pretty much spells out, what happens to him, but we don't really see it. And the cartoon kind of just doesn't really show it. Oh, it happens here.
Have pleasant dreams, kids.
Oh, there's no blood, thankfully. But we do see Skullface crushed and mangled body.
Yep. We then get the first big skip of we see nothing of the fun
Feast.
Feast. Thank you.
We see none of the feast. It's completely skipped.
Yeah,
so so is Matthias pulling out a fish.
Yeah, all that gone. And I mean, I guess it doesn't have to show up in there, but it's like I kind of would like to see a artistic representation of all the really awesome food that they eat.
Yeah, it seems odd that honestly, like that's what the Redwall series is kind of primarily known for, is just its really good descriptions and depictions of food and just feasting. And I mean, I get it from like a story narrative where it's like we don't really need to have this feast scene in here, but it's like, I mean, come on, just a full spread page of just showing off all the delicious food. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Much less sorry, I lost my train of thought. The cartoon did show us portions of that feast too. Yeah. I mean, for obvious reason, an animation medium can't go into near the details a book can, but
oh yeah, I'm not expecting like I'm not expecting like every panel of the comic, for like 3 pages straight showing every awesome dish that they're going to be having there. But granted, I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, it's also that whole feast is like this jolly, fun, peaceful moment that's always sticks out to me whenever I think about the book, and now it's completely skipped over.
Oh, and we get our first cornflower show up, and she's already sitting next to Matthias on the cart. So yeah, that's okay. We've checked that box.
Here's one of the things that I really liked about that panel where, Constance is pulling the cart is in terms of adaptation, yes, they might have just copy and pasted, but they added a few things. Some of it was emphasis on certain words, and some of it was ellipses. So, when Matthias is in the cart, he says, it's no trouble, Cornflower. You live so close to the church, ... It's only sensible. But it's very kind of you to sit next to me. And then you've got Constance looking like, look at these youngsters.
It's like, yeah, sure, Matthias. Yeah, we all know what you're trying to do.
Yeah, play hide the bull rush. But
I wouldn't go that far.
Constance is like, oh no, I've hit a bump. Matthias, you should place your arm around Cornflower to make sure she doesn't fall out.
Speaking of Constance, again, we have to talk about Anthropomorphic and the artwork, where the cartoon made her deliberately A, full-clothed, and B, on bipedal, and not much bigger than the rest of the cast. Here, she's huge. She is the size of a respected badger to a mouse. She is wearing a scarf, so, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she is on all fours. Like you kind of expected out of the book.
Not just that, but in the panel above that where all of the mice are sleeping in the cart, if you took off the shirts from them, they just look like mice, like regular mice and regular poses. All besides maybe the main cast is typically depicted in like fully animalistic form.
Oh yeah, which reminds me, I don't think we see the beaver ever in this, so that's another character
Nothing
con.
of value was lost.
But I for one, I think that this was all actually intentional, the anthropomorphization, and it was actually a comment on how the main characters of books are more real and human than the background characters. And that's why all the background characters.
I'm gonna go with it's the same reason why the non-main characters in video games in 3D games are less rendered than the main ones. It's hey, it takes more time to make them look better, so let's not spend that amount of time on the characters that nobody cares about.
Yeah, but we can pretend it's good though.
Yeah, your reason was good too, though.
So we get the famous scene of Constance takes the cart off the road, and they watch Clooney in his cart drive past.
No, they watch a demon from the seventh circle of hell pass by. Jeez. The bottom of page 13, we get eyeless Clooney like.
Well, eye patched Clooney, but yes.
Patch. It doesn't. You can't tell that he has an eye patch on. It looks like just this dark void where his eye should be.
Whoever the artist is trying to draw hands, his hands scare me a lot. Like all of the hands in this are a little too animal-y.
Oh yeah.
And it's terrifying.
So as we see back in the book, Constance just like, nope, everybody back to the Abbey because I'm not leaving you out here with the rat cart.
Yeah, we call that best girl in the industry.
So it keeps going, and yeah, we get back to the Abbey. Interestingly enough, we are told, I can remember several inlines about Constance in the book that implies that she can barely fit into the main structures, but she doesn't have that problem here. She's big, but the Abbey is pretty darn big in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we get the basic explanation. Hey, we got an army of rats outside our door, so yeah, we probably should do something about that. And we get badger senses, and oh god, I had to laugh about that.
Yeah. My badger senses are tingling. Anyone call for a giant badger?
She said, Constance outright says, these are very bad and evil rats. I'm like, what gave it away? The bad dental work?
Well, I love, too, like, this weird sense of, like, elitism where, like, one of the mice in the panel goes, evil rats, nonsense. Like, wait, so are there some good rats you guys doing business with or something? Like, I want to know where those good rats are. Like, what's going on?
Descendants.
Yeah, Blackett's descendants. Oh. I would like that to be headcanon that Blackett established like a small little commune of nice rats just on the river and just, I don't know. Anyway, that'd be nice.
I also love the general reaction to when Mortimer's like, yeah, this is probably Clooney, and everyone's kind of laughing it off.
Yeah. And then we have him go, I think we require the services of, and I was half expecting him to go, Batmouse!
Tom is probably dead, sorry.
Yeah. And it's Brother Methuselah.
And I gotta admit a personal bias here. Every time I see Methuselah here, I'm thinking of Professor Farnsworth, and I can hear his voice in my head from Futurama.
Good news, everyone!
Bad news, it's Clooney the Scourge. And apparently not only does he know that it's Clooney the Scourge, but they have records with artwork drawn of him. How old is Clooney?
I mean,
I personally thought Methuselah looked like a combination between melted Yoda and a mop.
Yeah, he does look like a small sneeze could end up killing him very quickly. So as far as like the Clooney thing, I feel like that's kind of very true to how abbeys were back in the day, is that most friars and monks, they would basically illuminate and write every single story that they would get just because they needed practice to, draw and illuminate the like the Bible and stuff like that, and also just find works.
This is
So
very Book of Kells-ish, like
yeah.
where they draw the art. The artwork is drawn by the monks who are writing down the story, and yeah, that's actually one of the parts of the story I actually think is a good addition.
Yeah, you could call them a recorder on the wall.
Haha.
I do love the Methalusa sass here when everyone's just like,
wait, pronounce that name again.
Methalusa? Did I say that right?
Methuselah.
Methuselah. Shut up. Katie's not here.
I thought that was like the general accepted pronunciation of it, actually.
Oh, I know it's biblical, and I should know that being a theology major, but yeah, whatever. Methuselah is just like, hey, and you actually doubted our father Abbott? Well, you're all idiotic.
Bad news, everyone. You're dumb.
Now I'm going to open my drawer for these lengths of wire.
Ooh, that's a nice one. It's blue. Well, then they're like, well, we'll be ready. Clooney finds the church, our favorite church, and Clooney's having a nice peaceful dream where he's murdering a pike and saying die repeatedly.
It's such a happy dream, too.
It's a little extra.
Yep. And then, I am the ghost of Martin.
Stop.
And, yep.
We get Clooney scared to death, apparently. Well, not quite to death, but he wakes up screaming and
then suddenly he's at Redwall.
Yep. Cheese. Well, I'm going to say it's Cheese Thief, because why not? He's like, hey, we found our local troops, and Clooney's like, okay, read them the articles, and what are those articles? We don't know.
We don't know because the comic skips it.
And then we see Clooney in his full-fledged armor. Yeah. At Redwall. And the defenders are already out there with bows and arrows, so, props to planning.
Clooney's out there like, how do you like my Goliath cosplay?
I'm sorry, you missed Comic-Con. It was last month.
Okay, I'll go home then. Oh. End of book.
Yeah. Oh, or it's probably Red. Red Tooth's like, hey, I speak for the leaders, so you want to let us in?
Yep.
Oh, but we won't talk with badgers.
We don't need no stinking badgers.
Oh, yeah, Constance is gonna love that.
Constance like, I can't wait to kill you later.
Remember when I said I would kill you last?
I lied. Eat the mice.
Oh yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
You get Clooney's horde who are calling out their own desires, and given what I know about actual rats, oh yeah, they will totally prey on smaller rodentia. So
I do like, because I don't think we got comments from the peanut gallery in the book, so this is a moment of something different that I do like, where it makes it feel like there actually is a mob and that they disagree, they're voicing their opinions, including it's like, shut up.
See what happens when you open a comment box, Clooney?
Yep. He's got YouTube comments behind him.
Oh no.
No, wait, never mind. I take that back. There's not nearly enough racial slurs going on.
Yeah. So the abbot is smart enough to say, hey, yeah, we'll let you in, but yeah, no weapons, and tie your tail around your waist because we know it's a weapon.
Yep. And he's like, good, I'll do that. And then apparently wrap your tail around your waist also means take off all the rest of your armor so you're walking in with no clothes on.
I like to imagine that. I like to imagine that they're at the front and basically they're like, well, that could be considered a weapon. That's my jerkin. How could that be? Okay, fine. I'll take that off.
There's a loose thread. You could strangle somebody with that. Oh, for goodness sake.
This is just unprofessional. Is what this is.
Yep.
And then don't you people know how to surrender professionally? Ah.
Then Clooney comes in and recites the lyrics to his favorite Queen song, saying, "I want it all," and he wants it now.
I'm hearing more Veruca Salt. I'm sorry.
Who?
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the Brat Kid. That one.
Oh yeah, that movie that I haven't seen since I was like 7. Okay.
How could you not remember Willy Wonka though?
Don't remember most. I remember Gene Wilder. I don't remember a whole lot. It's been like 28 years since I've seen it.
Oh my
Fair.
goodness. I'm looking at the 3 panels at the end of page 24 when he's like, "I want everything," and Constance is just like, "Grr."
Constance
Father
like,
Abbott
I'm
is
gonna
like,
table at you.
And
Matthias
Matthias
is
is
just like,
that's an eye twitch. Yeah, Matthias that is an eye twitch. He's ready to stab him.
Rage building.
Yep. And then in the next page, we get the famous Matthias chopping the declarations in half, and then Constance just punching Red Tooth right in the face.
That big old badger arm swinging.
Drew, I can barely hear you.
Come on, try me for size. Constant smash. Constant strongest there is.
I keep having to glance at my computer instead of my microphone because I'm looking at the panels. Here we go. A little bit of Redwall ASMR.
That's almost creepy.
Recorder on the wall, the ASMR experience.
Yep, and there's Red Tooth, who's probably got a broken jaw at this point.
Red Tooth's like, anyway,
I'm okay.
Get the number of that bus.
Yeah,
I'm not okay.
He's wearing pants.
I do want to point out that Mortimer is this version is a hell of a lot better than he was in the cartoon because
that's not hard.
Yeah, he's just like when Clooney demands it, he gave 24 hours to give him the answer. He's just like, whatevs, get out.
No.
Yeah, he looks scary there. His mouth looks like a lamprey's mouth.
Not where I would have thought, but okay. And then we get Constance raising the table, and oh wow, yeah.
Constant smash.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Red Tooth, being a complete moron, big country bumpkin, eh, Chief? Like, oh yeah, that's what you want to do. I'm sure Clooney's in a great mood at the moment too.
And they don't have an escort out the front door. I just want to point that out until Matthias catches up with them.
Yeah, he's trapping along behind them.
Yeah. Don't forget to call again, Rat. I'd be delighted to see you. Why would they know what that means?
And Clooney does see the trapster. He's like, "Hey, who's that?" And oh yeah, that's Martin. He would have totally kicked your butt. And oh, it's a mouse from my dreams. Huh. Okay. Yeah. Later.
Get me Shadow.
I chose to interpret that differently. It's the mouse of his dreams.
Oh.
This is turning into recording on the wall after dark.
Yeah, you're gonna stop, Drew. Okay.
On an unrelated note, the bell now tolls for midnight. And we see Shadow, who looks like a terrifying dragon creature.
Yeah, that ain't a rat. I'm sorry.
That's very, very specific artistic direction, which I kind of dig. Like it's like Shadow is not even like a natural creature, and I kind of like that a little bit.
Well, they said that in the book.
He honestly looks more like I'd expect a pine marten.
I'm looking at some of these shots, and he looks like a dragon, just with fur.
Yeah.
And I expect him to start breathing fire all over the place.
Yeah, because he has no problem either on being bipedal or walking on all fours.
He's a long boy.
Very much so.
I want to ride him into battle.
He does kind of look like he has a saddle on his back.
He does!
Hi-ho, Shadow! Away!
Yeah, but then we get the ghost of Martin again. He looks like something straight out of Charles Dickens. Like...
I was going to say Harry Potter, but that works too.
Matthias!
I need you. Get up! And then our brave hero Matthias trips and falls right on his face.
And yeah, that is still not a rat. I'm sorry.
No. This is definitely not an eye patch. His eyes at the bottom of page 32 are literally just black voids.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, stop that rat. And they're like, you mean that terrifying demon creature? Yeah, that too.
And Matthias is the only one to actually not only more or less make contact, throughout any kind of fight until, there's Constance.
Constance shurikens him over the side of the wall.
The impact frames with Constance are amazing. You can literally just feel the meaty thunk as she hits him. He just flies off the wall.
Or according to the page,
I think you hit him a little hard. That was a point.
Crunch.
Oh yeah, and we get the sound effect of Shadow hitting the ground.
Crunch.
Yeah, he's a chiropractor.
I love where he's like, Clooney, I'm hurt. Oh really? I thought you'd be fine after falling off a wall and getting punched in the back.
Well, I'm sorry, Shadow. According to our records, you did not pay into your Vermin HR health plan, so no, you're on your own.
Yep. Yeah,
the dental is pretty terrible, though. I mean, all of them have gingivitis, it looks like.
It doesn't cover cripples and bunglers. I think he's just kind of quoting the articles there.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Got his HR director back there like, Clooney, I told you to stop calling them cripples.
Those are pre-existing conditions.
And then, the way Shadow dies is fun. I found this funny. It's just, I picture his too late mouse. Tapestry is with Clooney now.
Just an asterisk.
Yep.
What a strange bloodless death.
All my bleeding is internal.
I know we can't technically voice act the entire series, but we could definitely do the comic. That would be lit.
Oh yeah, Penguin Publishing would love that.
I don't think they care. I've seen.
No, they would very much care. I'm not doing it.
Every party needs a pooper. That's why they invited Pete.
Party pooper.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, there's Clooney and his horde, and that's actually a pretty substantial army. So,
yeah, it's pretty big.
But I'm here. Whether it's just the resolution we have to work with or whatever, but that looks like majority rats. We don't see most of the other vermin species.
I can't make out most of that. So, I was gonna say Clooney is not only bad with calling his creatures cripples, he's also racist. He's putting all the weasels and ferrets in the back of the group.
But I will point out that Clooney is not above getting his own hands dirty because, he's carrying his own standard. Good for him.
So he's setting the standard.
Meanwhile, back at the good guy headquarters, I'm ignoring that one. We actually finally see other species other than a mouse or badger for the first time. Hey, that only took forever. There's otters. There's a squirrel. There's a hedgehog.
Oh my. And then suddenly Matthias is outside the church.
Oh, when did that happen?
Yeah. All right. And
apparently they have a red versus blue level teleporter. And that is Basil. Yeah, he shows up.
He looks terrifying in the bottom of page 30.
He's still awesome, I'm not going to say, but in contrast to almost every other show it version of hair art we see, or even the cartoon, he's flop-eared. Okay.
Well, you get older, certain things start to droop.
Lord have mercy on all of our souls.
And he does enter himself as Basil Staghair. It's truncated as you'd expect, but we don't find out why he's got the name Stag.
Nope.
I mean, yes, that's minor, I know.
Yeah, and then during the wild goose chase, Matthias breaks inside and goes, there's no family for me to rescue this time. Oh well.
Yeah, what was this quest about?
Yep. He went there to go get the tapestry back.
Yep,
Yeah.
certainly not a Vole family that we are all annoyed with.
Yep. And nothing of value was lost.
I like to think they were just left in the church.
Matthias like, well, looks like my job here's done. Matthias, help us. Nope, nothing left to do here. Please, we're dying. Well, I'm heading home.
And yeah, you got to give Clooney some credit. I know he's wearing that gargoyle cape that already has arrows sticking out of it. But he is standing in the line of fire actively.
He's just sitting there, just yelling at the. He's probably just yelling at the top. Come on, hit me! Like just over and over again.
And Constance is wielding a mace. Hey, wait a minute.
Scary.
You know,
that's terrifying.
That's the wrong Badger.
I'd say Constance can wield whatever she feels like.
Yeah, fair enough.
Furniture being primarily what mostly she wields.
Yeah. I want to see her walk around the battlements just carrying a table over her shoulder and just swatting rats off the side of it when they're trying to climb over.
Oh, hey, there's an otter who is not named, and tells her, "Hey, they're putting something against the walls. Oh, hi, ladders. Does this look like stones to you?"
Well, yes, it. And then in the next one, we get "Where's Regir?" and we lost the entire section of Regir muttering to himself, which was like the funniest moment in the cartoon, and that makes me sad.
Hi, Asmodeus, you're terrifying.
Yeah, that's spooky.
Rightfully so.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, that's the point. I know. But
So-
our first introduction to Regir is he's wrapped up in the coils, presumably poisoned by venom, and Asmodeus is just carting him off to do things. So
snake things.
So in the book, if my memory is a little janky. So he ends up getting captured by Asmodeus because Matthias was the one that hit him with like in a trap, right? Like it hit him with a branch.
Yeah, Matthias knocked him out with a branch, then tied him to a tree. Regir bit through the rope that was tying him there, and the whole time he's like, "Oh, Shadow's rope. Oh, we can't stand up to Regir." And he's like muttering to himself as he's sneaking back, like, "There were 5 of them, Chief. No, 10. And I. Oh, hello,
Right,
Giant
right.
Snake."
Okay.
And there's Asmodeus just sitting there like, no, please continue on. Don't mind me.
This is entertaining.
We're back to Professor Farnsworth. So
Melted Yoda.
yeah.
And that's the end of quote unquote book 1.
Yeah.
Well, if I could just interject it for this, one thing I really wish that they would have done is that I have no idea if there was a different print of this or not, but I kind of wish that they separated each book with like a full page spread of something as opposed to just end book 1, then book 2, the quest in the top left-hand corner. I would have liked something a little bit more like similar to the books itself, like an actual page break of just like, hey, here's some fun new art of the next book or something. But
Yeah,
So
I
here's
agree.
what strikes me, though, as a plot point here. We know that the tapestry was made about Bellmaker? Is that right?
They were doing a Mariel of Redwall.
Right.
yeah.
So one of the points of the original book is that they find that secret script behind the tapestry. So did they know to hang it there? Or did Ghost Martin come in and carve it at night?
Martin was like, "Okay, I know years from now you're gonna you're gonna make a tapestry of me. Make sure you put it right here." It's like, why is that? Don't question me.
But yeah, the end of book 1 is them finding the secret script that was behind the tapestry the whole time, and no one ever bothered to dust back there apparently. So
Yeah, the dust is so thick he has to move it just to see what's there.
mm-hmm. Book 2 begins with one of our ultimately cute characters, Sam, who has no whites in his eyes, and it is creepy.
And he's in 1 page, and we're back to Clooney.
But yeah, Sam is filling the same role. He agrees to lead Matthias back to Redwall, who Matthias has somehow gotten lost.
Yep. It's like he made his way to the church, and then suddenly he's lost finding his way back, which, all right.
That's one thing I feel like they don't really touch on, or rather, Brian never really touched on. Of like, if you're living in an abbey that's in the middle of these Mossflower Woods, I feel like a fair amount of the people that would live at the abbey would still be taught basic, like I don't know, a traversal through a forest or something like, hey, if you're trying to get to St. Ninian's, like you might want to try and stick close to the road, or like, I mean, I granted you probably want to stay away from the road from the army itself, but at the same time, I feel like he should be able to know where the Redwall Abbey generally is, just from living nearby. But
yeah, that would only make sense.
And we get one of Clooney's other plots to come up where he tries to bridge. He tries to bridge to the walls from a tree, and I admit this made me laugh really hard to see his oh crap face.
What Looney Tunes sound effects.
What made me laugh harder was the artist's portrayal of a hedgehog in page 47 that just looks like an angry sun.
Looks like going full Super Saiyan there.
I presume that's Ambrose Spike, but yeah.
It is literally just a spiky ball with an angry expression, and I love it.
And we get an otter, unnamed. Winifred, maybe? Who knows?
We have Scrag mentioned, and then that's the end of that plot thread.
And there goes Clooney all the way down the tree. Huh. But apparently he has better constitution rolls than Shadow did because he managed to survive.
Oh god, and we have all like the other rats that are like twisted and cracked on the ground and ugh.
No, Clooney did a nat 20 on his constitution roll, so.
I like try not to move, Chief. Lie still, we'll get you back to camp. Foxes.
All right, we'll change the TV to channel 5 when we get there. No, you idiot, not Fox. And we have him bring.
He needs to watch his stories. But yeah, Clooney is removed, and yeah, we're seeing more of that size difference between him and other rats. Because good lord,
yep,
it's a big old boy.
It takes like 6 of them to be on a stretcher for him. Dear Chief, what have you been eating?
Mice,
rats. Really, anything that moves.
My carbohydrates.
Hey, that's the first thing if you want to. Yeah, well, that's the first thing if you want to start, building muscle. You got to build that intake on protein. You got to get all those carbs in so you can have some to burn off.
But yeah, we get Sam who leads Matthias back to the Abbey, and Constance is outside the Abbey.
She's like, Matthias, wait! I don't want to hear about your adventure. Check out what I did.
And yeah, we get the Abbot Mortimer's like, oh, they're retreating, so don't shoot after them. Well, that's noble of you, but okay. You can definitely see the slump in Constance's shoulders as she's disappointed.
Oh, I wanted to throw things at them.
And oh yeah, there's a couple of dead on below the ramparts there of dead rats.
Yep. And then, oh look, Cornflower's back.
Yeah,
hi, Cornflower.
Yep. Hey, Cornflower. Much like the writers, I almost forgot you were in this story.
She looks like the bad CG gingerbread man from the movie Brothers Grimm, and I know that's a very specific reference, but you should Google that.
That's a deep cut, and I appreciate it because that's a fun movie. So
I'm gonna look it up.
Oh, I enjoyed it. It was.
Oh, enjoy the spider horse.
All right, let's see. Oh, that's
Yeah, moving on.
Moving on.
That's like a melted creature right there. Oh wait, it says mud monster. Hang on. But I don't see gingerbread man.
Yeah, well, it turns into a gingerbread man. It is the mud monster.
Gingerbread tar baby.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
moving on.
Now I know what's going to be in my nightmares today.
So we get Matthias is back to the Abbey, and there's Sam, and he's adorable. And we finally get mention of, his mother and father, they'll be alone to collect them. Collect him.
Or bad parents.
Well, I mean, they did let their nearly, I would say, toddler son out into the forest by himself. So,
Yeah. As much as I like Jess Squirrel, yeah, maybe keep better track of your kid.
So we finally get Professor. I'm sorry, you know who I'm talking about.
Good news, Matthias! I found an ancient prophecy.
Jesus.
And yeah, we get the spoiler bit. Oh yeah, you're totally Martin's reincarnation. So neat.
And then
I am that is secretly Matthias.
I still think that's the dumbest thing ever.
I don't disagree with you.
The idea of mysticism in the series as a whole has always just been kind of played fast and loose. As far as like, hey, spirits can influence the living, but also they can't, and you have extended messages that they can give, but not always. So I don't know, like, and that's the thing. Since Brian never did like a full Bible, quote unquote, or lore book of how religion or spirits or the afterlife works in this series, because that wasn't the focus. We don't really know exactly how does that. Is there a reincarnation in this world? Is there like a mysticism angle of like people can come back from the dark forest? Like, I don't know. It's strange.
We don't know.
It's something I've always been wanting to play around with as far as like just doing my own idea of like something like playing around to it. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, but quite all right. And yes, we get to. Hey, I know where his tomb is. That was quick.
Yep. And
Oh, and
over
there's Formal and Moles for the first time. Hi guys.
And they're gone. And they find. I love how they kept the line of "Come on, old friend, let us enter together," even though we've shared maybe 5 panels together. That's the other thing. It's like they skip over so much of Matthias and Methuselah talking a lot and bonding and
or figuring out secrets.
Yeah, so it's like all that characterization is just boop, gone.
Oh, hi, Martin. There's your tomb.
And there's your shield that will never be mentioned ever again after this book.
Someone hasn't been down to dust in a while because they actually do show cobwebs everywhere.
Well, that would make sense. I mean, they didn't know this existed.
No.
I wonder, though, what do the spiders eat at far underground?
Yeah.
Like cockroaches and stuff?
Yeah.
I would also like to, as a thought, if this is the tomb of Martin, where they entombed, Redwall must have entombed him, how would you forget this existed?
The same way they forgot where Abbas Germain was buried?
Yeah, and the same way they forgot how Sarmina was drowned. You know, just over time, things happen.
And at times also like the fact that they built their abbey on top of Cotir, so it's like...
Which they apparently forgot like 3 months later. Yeah.
Why is our wall melting?
I think we need to have a talk with whatever recorder made a mistake here.
And multiple recorders.
Yeah. There was that one really cold winter where we just burned all our history.
All right, well, that's canon now.
Would you really be that surprised? Every time we're shown a recorder's office, it's a mess.
You're like, seriously, who has not invented any kind of categorization system in this for this abbey? Of like,
they have a categorization system. That's super dusty, not very dusty, pretty dusty, and oh look, we just put it there, so there's only a tiny bit of dust on it.
Well, unfortunately, Brother Dewey was Brother Dewey Decimal was put in charge of the kitchens instead of the recorder job.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, at the Hall of Evil.
You mean Saint Ninians?
Meanwhile, at Saint Ninians.
No, it's addressed in series. We haven't gotten there yet. Where Saint Ninians tends to be a bad guy base a lot.
Yep. To the point where, well, we'll find out what happens to it in the next book we cover too.
Yeah, next new book, anyway.
Yeah, well, actual book, because we're not covering any books.
Not for a while, no.
No, so literally the next actual book we cover, we'll find out we'll find out the fate of Saint Ninians.
So Sela's just like, oh yep, she's doing dances. She's got to get her DDR in. Yes, that's a joke from Redwall the Abridged series. And
then in panel 3, her neck all of a sudden just extends. She has a really tall neck for some reason.
And until a certain panel on page 59, Sela and Chicken Hound both don't look very canine. There is not much to separate them from the rats, honestly.
There's some fox elements you see in some panels, but it's only when you get like a full-on look, like on that page that you see. Okay, so yeah, they look more like foxes, but they do kind of look like indeterminate vermin at points. But
and we also, if we're going back to that scale discussion, Sela is probably shorter than Clooney. So yeah, up until this point, we've been relatively consistent about the way different creatures are depicted larger than others. Though we have seen less vermin species than we've seen good guy, and then here's Sela, who probably isn't taller than Clooney at all.
I do like the little touches for Sela of like the earrings in one of her ears. Like they gave her like the actual like gypsy look. I think that's pretty cool.
I am going to complain about an inconsistency. When they pulled out the weird records on Clooney in like page 5, when they're like, "Oh, who was that?" and Methuselah has the scrolls. Mm-hmm. They've got some weird, like, kind of alien speech on that scroll. Like, it's just a bunch of gibberish, and you're led to believe that that's the language in this world.
Maybe that's why they can't keep track of their history.
It was the Tower of Babel. That was actually Redwall. Was the fact that the language changed as soon as they built it.
It is canon in series that badgers have a written script that it differs from, I guess, common, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, well, I guess foxes do too, because her letter is written in perfect English and with a terrible font.
Oh, Comic Sans? Really, Mom?
It's the perfectly evil font. Of course I'd use it.
Okay.
I mean, at the same time, like whenever Comic Sans is used in a comic, I can't really get that angry at it because I mean that's the whole reason that it was invented. So
yeah, I know.
I like page 60 where we see like the full summary of Clooney's moods of like this huge build up to like this terrifying laugh, and then now it's nappy time.
Hey, boss, are you monologuing again?
It's like, oh, Clooney, someday you must learn to play chess. She has taken the bait, but meanwhile I will attack them under the corner. Nappy time.
You gotta imagine his guards right outside their door rolling their eyes. Like,
yeah, he's maniacally cackling to himself again. Oh, now he's gone to sleep.
Finally.
Well, it's like that line in Beast Wars where Black Arachne is like, why do you always talk to yourself? And Megatron just replies back, I simply have a penchant for intelligent conversation.
Nice.
We get back to Matthias, who's like, we never noticed this obvious divot in the floor before on the ramparts.
We don't pay attention to anything.
Oh, and there's a one line trade-off on where Chicken Hound's coming to the Abbey, but Constance's like, oh, hey guys, so I'm meeting with a fox who's going to give us intel. Everybody okay with that? Okay, what are we doing?
Constance is like, well, you piqued my interest. I don't care about what just happened.
Yeah, this is better than whatever I was doing 3 seconds ago.
And then she's like, yeah, by the way, you know that shield you keep talking about in this big circle here? Guess what you should probably do? And they do it, and this is actually kind of cool looking with the light being up to the top.
Laser beams.
And
who knew Martin had enough knowledge of physics to install semi-transparent mirrors to direct coherent light towards the weather vane?
I'm going to go with Gomph came up with this one.
Yeah, I agree.
He's like, hey, Martin, I got the best idea ever.
You've been into the cellars, haven't you, Gomph?
Yeah, he's like, no, man. Hang on. No, I got this great idea. All right, so
I've been on that Badger stuff, whatever they take. It's for my knees, man.
That sweet, sweet Salamander strain.
You bought it from the Bong Patrol, didn't you?
The Bong.
I can't take credit for that. That was a fan tweeted us at that.
Okay. I have to work on those right away now. So
The Bong Patrol.
But we actually see, and this is one of the few things I will actually credit the graphic novel, in the way that the original book kind of described the sword being tied to the weather vane. It always made me, and maybe this is just my impression, that they kind of like loosely wrapped it around the front arm of the weather vane. In this version, they actually show there's a cutout for it.
I always pictured it as like, I don't know, like all the famous swords of like it's jammed into something at the top and also still tied into place. But granted, though, I guess if you tied it to the entire weather vane, the weather vane wouldn't turn and thereby defeat the entire purpose of having it.
I was going to say, a sword is going to be pretty heavy. It's amazing the weather vane turns as well as it does.
Yep. Well, we got Jess Squirrel climbing up there in one
page.
Hi,
Jess!
Yep. And
first time we've seen her.
Oh, and look, there's a bunch of sparrows, and Silent Sam is pissed.
Not only is there a bunch of squirrels, there is what
Sparrows.
clearly is another squirrel, and I'm betting that's our one-panel version of Mr. Squirrel. There he is. We found him.
Yep. Hey, there he is, and Silent Sam is grabbing a dagger out of his belt and is like, ah!
That's from the book.
Yep. Well, no, because he already had the dagger.
Yeah.
Remember, he didn't steal it from his dad.
It was Basil's that he gave it to him.
Yep, which we skipped over that in the comic. And little Silent Sam is pretty pissed off.
Yeah, he looks awesome in that panel.
Yep. And then they're like, "Hey, let's shoot at the sparrows, but don't try to hit." Okay, we hit one. All right. Well,
wait,
good job.
I missed an obvious joke. Have you guys seen that? What have you got there? A knife. No.
I get it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I hate all of you, every single one of you except for Tim. Tim's my best friend now.
Aww.
What are you referencing?
Oh my!
It's a meme. It's a meme.
Terrible. I'm putting this in the chat right now. Or listen to this at this very second, or else.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
It's 3 seconds long. Look at that.
I see you played knifey spoony before.
So we get what in the hell? Is that supposed to be Mortimer on that third panel on 66?
Where's 66? Third panel?
Like an actual werewolf.
Upper where it's like
I
second
think that's
panel.
An otter.
What is that?
I don't know. I think that's an otter there, and Matthias is shouting fire.
Yeah.
So then they hit one of the sparrows. It falls, and I kill you.
Hi, Warbeak.
Yep. And Jess gets down, and it's like, look, there was totally no sword there, and there was the shape of it, but I don't know. I like how Matthias is like, he's like, I'm sorry, Matthias, I tried my best. Of course you did, Jess. Thank you very much for your valiant efforts.
Oh, no, I was wrong. Mr. Panel. Mr. Squirrel gets 4 panels here.
Yes.
And that's all we'll ever see of him.
Meanwhile, in the forest.
God, you're good at that. Keep thinking we're on Super Friends. And, yep, here's my favorite Looney Tunes scene. Yay!
Fox season.
Yeah. Ceetla is walking through the forest, and Constance just reaches over and grabs her by the throat.
And then I love this too, where it's like, I'm taking your stuff. It's like, your abbot was supposed to meet me with a reward. Here's your reward, Constance Punch.
I was about to say, what assurances did she have of that? I mean, I know Chicken Hound delivered the message off screen, but Constance was the one who said, no, I've just totally made a deal.
Yeah, I found it weirdly enough. I found it like kind of messed up that like I get it because badgers have this whole thing against vermin, but this fox did, like, even if it was a traitor, did help you out, and your response is to just basically like, no, screw you, and just punch him in the face. And just like it's so not, it's unhonorable, like dishonorable, of just like, oh my gosh, Constance, like I get it, yeah, Furman, but what the heck?
I look at it, it's like, Constance, like, here's your reward. I won't break your jaw when I punch you.
You broke my jaw!
Oh, well.
I have to agree with you. I know it's Constance, and yes, Badger, but this is kind of, in the early book here, she honestly should be, like, hey, you want shelter from Clooney? Since you've obviously just betrayed him?
Yep. Or at the very least, like, I don't know, actually give her a reward, because then you have an agent that is willing to continue to work with you. But I mean, I get it. Yeah, when in war times, when you've got a person that's willing to betray who they work for, that's kind of a problem. But at the same time, it's just, I just found it always weird. Like, it's just oh, you helped me. Well, screw you. Off you go then.
And I totally don't expect you to go report to Clooney everything that's happened here, because I just screwed you over.
Yeah, who's she gonna complain to? Gets back. What happened to your face? That badger. Why were you talking to the badger? No reason. Meanwhile, back at Redwall, the intelligence brought to us by Constance is conclusive, and we just have what was a big important point of the book of King have a big sword is just this random comment from Morbeak, and they're like, we're already gonna go back up there. All right. And so
yeah, Warbeak is she's actually kind of drawn well. But not given a lot of time to build that friendship with Matthias before you're already in the wafts. Yeah, except there is a point where she does try to scratch at Matthias, and he's willing to let her die.
Throws her off the ledge. Well, they do that in the book too, where he's hanging in there. They're like, well, all right, are you gonna behave or do I let go? I behave.
Well, one of the more morbid versions of that panel is the fact that, yeah, sure, there's part of the rope tied around the stomach, but the part that he's holding is tied around her neck. And the only reason she didn't die right there and then is because she got the rope caught in her claws.
Yeah, she's got it wrapped around it. Like, yeah.
I just noticed that. Yeah.
I'm sure at some point the artist was literally trying that, and he was like, you know what? She's fine. She's good.
Yep.
Don't worry about it.
So, even though she just gave the word, she won't do it. I can't reach the trap door. Can you fly and get up for me? I totally trust you now.
So Warbeak does it.
He lets her out of the ropes, and she does it. And then, where we're going to end this, as we all know what's coming here. Oops! There's the rest of the sparrows. And, oh dear God, Bull Sparrow looks terrifying.
He's got a mohawk.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got like a Rufio thing going on there.
That's canon now.
Yep.
He's voiced by Dante Bosco.
Yeah, Vicky won't let me name our child Rufio, and I'm upset. It's like, think about how cool they would be, though. She's like, I think people would make fun of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with her, but I also agree with you. It's a very cool name.
Rufio!
Rufio. Rufio.
Yes, thank you.
Easily chantable.
But yeah, that's where we're gonna end on page 74. So this first half was a thing.
That's a great way to describe it. It's a thing.
I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's there are things that, like, I did read a little bit ahead, just because I wanted to see exactly other different elements of the comic, but I feel like there's not a whole lot that's done interestingly with the composition of the panels or anything like that. I mean, it's fairly standard. It's just a fairly standard graphic novel adaptation so far. So it's kind of by the books. It sticks directly to the material that it's adapting, and it cuts out some of the fluff. But as we've already talked about, it feels like they cut out things that I feel would be nice to still kind of have in there. Like, again, the feast, I would have appreciated to have that in there, or just, yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I guess I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it all that much, and can't say I'm actually looking forward to reading the rest of it. I'm going through this, I hit the point where I'm like, well, all the dialogue is copied and pasted, so I'm just gonna start skimming and looking at the pictures because I've seen everything else a million times by now. And also, this is the third time we've covered the same exact story.
And there's no benefit of Tim Curry to make this much more fun. So,
as we will foreshadowing.
But I mean, I don't hate it. But if given the choice of which of the versions to read, yes, I'm going to read the book.
Yeah, clearly, I'd probably read the book.
And I'll probably do the cartoon next, skipping over the Wild Ivy episode. But does this mean I'm relegating this to third place just because it's the least of the three? Not so much. It's more, it's a lot. Well, don't get me wrong, I love graphic novels for when they really work well. Like I mentioned earlier, Surrogates is one of my favorite, the classic V for Vendetta or Watchmen, but I just want borrowing it from the library for this was good enough. Really. It's a lot harder for me to imagine myself in my recliner with a cup of tea and just enjoying this on a quiet night versus the book.
I will say, even though they did chop out a bunch of stuff, at least they didn't try to insert new stuff like the cartoon did. So at least they are sticking with the story, and they're not like, oh, here's this mega subplot that serves absolutely no purpose.
Honestly, we don't know. It's really hard. We don't know the sales figures of how well or didn't well this do. But I'm almost surprised this, and we can again touch on this next time. But why there weren't other books? Madame Mayo could have been really interesting to see how they played out the art with Nadaz, the Rats, and whatever his name was, Marcalis. So
Malcaris, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to actually. I was trying to figure out. I wanted to try and see if there was a way to get in contact with the publisher or anything like that to see if there's a way to get in contact with the writer or something, just to get a sense. Like, they probably won't even remember at this point, but just more to get a sense of like what was the decision process of saying where Brian said I didn't really feel like doing a graphic novel, but then they did do a graphic novel, and also certain decisions of, you know, why did you cut this out and why was it all done in black and white? Why was this happening? But I mean, that's a whole other thing. I mean, when in the process of doing an adaptation, there's always problems where, especially also when it's not just like with a team like this, when it's actually a team, like a separate writer, a separate artist, and like a separate letterer, because there's also the other guy, I forget his name, Richard Starkins. You know, there's all these things that they're working together to create, but at the same time, like, it's the direction of like, okay, so why does this character look like this? Well, it's described that way in the book. Well, can I modify him or her to look like this? Well, I guess you could do that. I don't know. It's interesting. I just wish we knew more. I wish there was more articles or something to know how this came to be.
I agree. I mean, I would have loved to know more background information, but we're limited to what the resources we can find, which amounts to the Redwall Wiki, pretty much.
Yeah.
What did you think, Drew?
What did I think? Pretty much all of my opinions have been voiced. I liked it a little bit more than the cartoon. The cartoon was a little bit more memeable, but I really like the art style of this. I don't know why I like that dark pencil charcoal style. I like a lot. But really not much can compare to the actual book, and that might just be nostalgia for me. But yeah, no, I didn't dislike it. I thought it was a fun read.
There are very few. Admittedly, there are very few adaptations out there that end up being better than the book. There are some, but they're very few.
True, but I think a lot of what made the book unique wasn't the story itself, but the way that Brian Jukes wrote it.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, one of the things I coming back to the series after all this time and having read a lot of other adult fiction, say Game of Thrones, just to toss out one. Brian, for all our frustrations on the number of songs that sneak their way into the later books, or the riddle poems, or the pages of food descriptions, Brian is still a lot more succinct than George R. R. Martin ever was. And I like George R. R. Martin. And it's the same problem. I run into that same problem every time I try to sit down and read Lord of the Rings. I know this makes me a terrible nerd, but having seen the movies first, I just get bogged down in trying to read those books for the same pacing problems. It would have been kind of interesting to see if Jake's ever wrote anything more on the adult side, but I'm honestly glad he didn't.
Have you ever read the Castaways books?
Not yet. That's what we're planning perhaps later this year.
Oh, are we? Those are nuts.
Yeah.
I never read those. Are they? Well, I mean, it's Brian Jake, so I'd assume they'd be good anyway. But how are they? I mean, this is totally off topic, but
they're very different from the Redwall books. There's some similarities. Like the first one involves there's kind of like riddles or like a puzzle in it. There's definitely more direct supernatural in it.
Okay.
In all three of them. I think the first one is the best one. The second and third one are fine, but I think the first one was the best.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
I will add that to the list.
Yeah, I think all three are definitely worth reading.
Stick around after we're done recording. I'll talk to you about that. So.
All right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of looking to seeing where this second half goes, even if I know where this story goes. There's so many times I read it.
Yeah.
Here's how the story goes. You find out about treasure on the Grand Line. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Was that One Piece?
Yes.
Shame on you.
It was only one piece of the song, though.
I wish
one of these episodes where I'm not there, I just want to watch the two of you just waste keep going with everybody's time with puns.
I think we could go for a while.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that should wrap us up. Unless anyone else has any other final thoughts they want to throw on.
No, I think I think I spoke too much, but
it's okay.
Stranger Things season 3 was pretty good. Go watch that. That's my final thought.
You can find us.
My final thought is about where people can find us on the internet.
I'll take it this time. You can find us at recorderonthewall.com. We are on iTunes Podcasts. We are on Google Play Podcasts. And I certainly am active on the Redwall forums, the Redwall subreddits, and quite a bit on our personal Twitter, which is ROTWPod. And you can also contact us as our primary fan contact email, rotwpod@gmail.com.
Excellent job.
Thank you. Next time, we will be doing the second half of the graphic novel. And then after that, we just wrap around to season 2 of the cartoon with Tim Curry.
Tim Curry's lips.
And
bye, everybody.
We'll see what comes after that. So I'm Pete.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Drew.
I'm Tim.
And we'll see you next time.